Hello and welcome to the second flight test of Skybound. I will be your commentator and host today, Brandon. I'm the Chief Operations Officer and lead of Skybound operations here at Jovian Space Systems. Happy to have you here today. On your screen and on the pad here at Mahia is Skybound, our small lift vehicle, for its second flight test. You may recall in the past, about a month or so ago, we had the first flight of Skybound, which did not go too well. We had a bunch of engine failures and a loss of vehicle control. So we are hoping for better results today. We have improved a lot of the systems and onboard vehicle mechanics of Skybound in hopes that today's flight will go a lot better than last flight did. So as we progress through the count, we're just about T-minus 16 minutes away from launch. We do have one major concern for today's launch. That is the weather. The entire weather is not great at Mahia right now. However, there's a 65% chance of violation when at T0. So hopefully we can get some luck here and get Skybound off the pad today. If you have any questions in chat, please pop them in. I will do my best to answer them. Team has progressed smoothly through the count. Testing went as well as it could be expected, I guess, of a new vehicle. We did have that one failure, you could say. That was mainly the biggest issue during the testing. So thankfully we've fixed that current issue, and in the future that will not happen again, hopefully. It's about 15 minutes now. Should be hearing... There are those Proxima TBC checkouts, those thrust vector control is another one of those systems that helps steer the vehicle. That is one of the improved systems we have that we improved from last flight. Some of those changes that we made include some of the numerous improvements include engine upgrades to improve engine reliability, more stringent auto FTS rules, increased tank strength, and more and the tanks. Those tanks are another big thing. We noticed on the last flight a small leak that developed in the tank, which is why we added some systems on board the vehicle to hopefully snuff any of those out. Last flight as well, we noticed that there were some FTS issues. That flight termination system had some issues. So we've since been testing the FTS system, and we've made sure that it is reliable, that it is a reliable system with backups upon backups of systems, that if anything were to go wrong, and if the vehicle were to deviate outside of flight trajectory or something was to go extremely wrong, we could activate the vehicle could activate the automatic flight termination system, and or the mission control could terminate the vehicle themselves. I do believe we did hear that the Proxima sea level and the Proxima vacuum engine, and that's, yeah, there we go. There's that final engine showdown. Our key objectives for today's flight include making it through a whole first stage burn, reaching Tamiko, and getting that stage 2 Proxima vacuum engine to ignite. In about 3 seconds here, that first stage should be wrapping up on propellant load, followed shortly after by the second stage.
Stage 1 fuel load complete. Replenish valve is opened.
That replenish valve keeps on cycling new propellants through the tanks. The tanks are at 100, are about at 100%. The replenish valves will make sure that none of that will boil off at all.
Stage 2 fuel load complete. Replenish valve is opened.
Question in chat, will it hold maybe from agency? We do have the ability to hold today. We have a 3.5 hour window. We have a 3.5 hour window in case we need to hold or recycle, which right now we don't look to need, we don't appear that that needs to happen at this moment in time. However, it could happen at a moment's notice, so keep an eye out on that T-minus clock down at the bottom of your screen to make sure that if the count were to stop, so if we detect a weather violation today, which might happen, we will hold at the final status checkpoint, which is at T-minus 45 seconds. We can hold, I believe, from the mission control teams and of the vehicle teams, up to 30 minutes with propellant on board. There are those FTS checkouts. Good sign that we are smoothly progressing through the count. So now, T-minus 11 minutes and 25 seconds. Teams are quiet here, looking over all the systems and all the data to make sure that we will have a good launch today.
RCS testing is underway.
RCS testing is underway, meaning that that secondary control system of the vehicle is now being tested. That reaction control system is used for reorientation and steering of the vehicle. Another question from Aiden C. Do you think we have any holds? We do not. I do not know at the moment. However, the weather, as we've said, does not look great at all. However, we could decide that it's not good, that it's fine, and we could progress with the count at any moment. So keep an eye out, as I said.
ALS and GLS have been powered on. Now calibrating.
ALS and GLS, the autonomous launch sequencer and the ground launch sequencer, have been turned on. They're now calibrating. That switch over from the ALS and GLS.
ALS calibration complete, providing nominal data. Final weather check showing red at T0. Continue to final status check.
Not great news there. However, we're going to continue to that final status check.
Vehicle systems are switching to internal power.
So those vehicle systems switching to internal power, basically meaning that the vehicle will soon be operating on its own battery power. About 2 minutes and 9 minutes, 15 seconds. We did hear that weather is no-go at T0. So we will continue to watch the weather and see potentially if we can fly today.
Ground gas closeouts have started.
Ground gas closeouts have started clearing all the gases that are kind of lurking around the launch site, clearing those out so that there is not a big explosion when we ignite those 9 Proxima engines on the first stage. So we continue counting down. Now 8 minutes, 20 seconds. As I said before, the road to this flight has been extremely interesting. We had major successes and one
Ground system
set,
has been armed for
setback.
nominal trajectories.
Soon we will have that pogo bleed procedure, which will stop the engine from shattering some lines and basically turning it into a pogo. That's why the name is pogo bleed procedure. That happening in a couple of seconds now.
Stage 1 and 2 pogo bleed procedure has started.
There's that pogo bleed procedure. Everything continuing to look nominal here, minus the weather. That's the one watch item. Agency in chat, is the weather good now? It is not. We do not know. We will most likely be holding. We will most likely be holding at 2 minutes 45 seconds, where that final status checkpoint is for launch.
RCS testing and TVC checkouts have been completed. Nominal data.
Nominal data from the RCS and TVC checks. Good news on that side. Both steering systems for the rocket now indeed good. At 6 minutes 25 seconds. A lot of things are going to start happening shortly. Just as a reminder, this is a test flight. Things can go wrong, and if things do go wrong, we will fix everything and we will be back on the pad shortly.
All restricted areas have been cleared for flight.
All restricted areas have been cleared for flight, meaning those NOTAMs and not Mars have been cleared in preparation for this flight today. If anyone was to be in those range, in those areas, we would have to hold the count and get someone to go out there and get them out because it is not safe for them to be there. It looks like good weather from A and C. It does, however, looks can be deceiving, and it is not good weather.
Stage 1 and 2 pressurizing for flight.
Stage 1 and 2 pressurizing for flight. That means that those tanks getting those tanks to flight pressures is a good sign for this flight today. With fully loaded propellant on board, Skybound can hold with the replenish valves open on both stages with a strong back on it to keep power generation on in those battery packs. We can keep that for about 30-ish minutes before we would have to call a recycle in the count. We have a 3.5 hour window, which we could easily do that today. Well, it wouldn't be ideal.
Strong back has retracted to 87.5 degree pre-launch position, armed for full retraction.
Well, it wouldn't be ideal to have to recycle. We have the possibility today. Skybound is on internal power, meaning that those onboard batteries now powering the vehicle and all of its systems. That strong back retracts to the 87.5 degree pre-launch position, which is that allows the vehicle for a lot of the systems to disconnect from Skybound in order for liftoff. And coming up in about 10 seconds here, we will have that flight termination system being armed for flight, meaning that if anything were to go wrong, the vehicle would terminate itself.
FTS has been armed for flight.
FTS has been armed for launch. At 3 minutes 55, we're rapidly approaching that T0 mark, which is pretty cool. The last flight of Skybound didn't go too well. The vehicle had multiple engine failures and suffered a
takeover will occur at T-minus 1 minute.
And we had a complete loss of vehicle. After a full in-depth investigation conducted by Jovian Space Systems, we have found the issues of Flight 1 and we have corrected them since. Coming up short, so that autonomous launch sequencer and that ground launch sequencer will conduct those launch operations. The ground launch sequencer will conduct launch operations from the ground autonomously, and the autonomous launch sequencer is on the vehicle, and it will work alongside those flight computers in flying the vehicle and commanding it.
Stage 1 and 2 have been pressurized to flight levels.
Stage 1 and 2 have been pressurized to flight levels. Now those tanks are at their final pressurization levels for flight. Now about T-minus 2 minutes 40, we should have that final go-no-go pull for launch in just about 10 seconds here. Let's listen in.
All stations, this is LD for the final go-no-go poll for launch. Range, rolling no-go, continue to T-minus 45 seconds, where we will hold. Propellant, go. Propulsion, go. Copy. LD is go to proceed to T-minus 45 seconds.
Going to proceed to T-minus 45 seconds there. In about 20 seconds here, we will have that high flow purge. Initial begin. basically means that those Proxima engines are chilled and are primed for flight, meaning that the Proxima engines are ready to be ignited at a moment's notice, which is pretty exciting news as we continue to count down for today's
Lifeboat pad has
second
started.
flight.
Proxima engines are primed and chilled.
As you heard, though, we are going to hold at T-minus 45 seconds, so I do believe we might keep those replenish valves open in case we need to hold for an extended period of time. We do know that those pushbacks have started, meaning that the leftover propellant inside the lines from the tank farm to Skybound have started to go back, but just about to put us 1 minute 25 seconds here. The vehicle does have
Vehicle
correct
data
trajectory
incorrect
for
trajectory. Flight data now logging. Proxima engines
flight
are
data.
go for
Has
flight. Igniters are armed. Go for ignition.
so the vehicle has correct trajectory for flight, and that flight data now logging. So we can go back and look over the data. So about to give us 1 minute here. Those Skybound flight computers will take over the count as it is in startup.
Skybound is in startup. Flight computers have taken over the count. All stations, this is range. Where the issue has been cleared, we are clear to go to proceed.
And we are going to proceed with launch. You'll hear that final status check in a couple of seconds.
Final status check. LD is go for launch.
And we are go for launch of Skybound. Now the vehicle is fully loaded and those replenish valves have been closed, meaning that we are completely ready and go for launch. This is very exciting, and hopefully we have a better outcome from yesterday. If 3 engines or more go out, we might not launch today. However, let's see. I'll be quiet now as we listen in for the final launch.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition startup sequence. All 9 engines running. Go. And lift off. Go Skybound, go Jovian Space Systems.
We've had a liftoff of Skybound.
Pad systems are in
All
good
9
health.
engines. All 9 engines running.
Telemetry is
The vehicle is pitching downrange. 9 engines on the vehicle performing nominally as we... Oh no.
FDS.
Oh, that was not planned. Let's listen in here as we attempt to see if we can get some data about what just happened.
All stations, this is LD. Prepare for accident investigation. all stations. It appears we have had an observation. The vehicle gimbal appeared to be disabled, and we had a gust of wind, so it could not correct. Is our initial data. So
Well, that is not exactly what we wanted. However, it did happen. So we are going to continue to investigate this issue. However, we will come out and say what we believe went wrong. And yeah. So I've been your commentator for today, Brandon. I'm the Chief Operations Officer and lead of Skybound Operations here. Hope you have a wonderful day, and yeah.